Yeah, today is the 3rd of June. We are having a MicroProfile technical call. Please help out with all the minutes. So we have how many? Yeah, as well, 4 working group member reps. And let me share my screen share. And okay, so oh, can you see my screen share?
No, I don't see it. I just see it says Emily Zhang has started screen sharing. Double click to enter full screen mode.
Oh, that's strange. Let me go to a different place. Maybe it's my
It might be a different monitor or a different window it's sharing.
yeah. Let me see, share again.
I don't see anything. I see you, of course. Let's see.
Yeah, so now find it. Better?
There we
There it
go.
is.
That works. Ding, 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 ding.
I need to go to somewhere closer to my hub. Okay, so it's good. Okay, the first thing is kind of the tutorial update. Terrain is still busy with all the update and etc. I think it's I have not looked at the latest yet. We'll double check afterwards to see whether it's in the position to merge. And second thing is John, you put in the annual life. So this is across the board for the all the macro all the kind of Eclipse projects as well. I think Jakarta has exactly same problem. John, do you want to see something?
Yeah, sure. If you want to go ahead and just click on it. This is the issue. So basically, Sonatype is getting rid of their OSS
Staging,
RH. What's that?
the staging.
Well, it's a different. It looks like they've changed the process, right? I haven't fully gone through this yet, because I'm wondering if others who run open source projects have already run into this as well, right? So this isn't limited, I think, to Eclipse. It's any open source project, right?
Yes.
So it looks like they've changed the process. They've changed some of the rules. Like you can have up to, I think, 6 people um, actually, stage and release stuff on a, you know, project by project basis. And I'm not sure what project means, right? Could it mean spec in the Jakarta world, or does it mean all of Jakarta, right? Is it an organization thing? So we have some work to do here, and it looks like it's going to EOL at the end of June. So we have some investigation and potentially some work to do. Worst case, we can't release anything after June 30th until this gets resolved. Right? That's what it looks like. So MicroProfile 7.1 should be fine. But how does this impact, Jakarta 11? Right? Good question. You know, not quite sure.
Yeah, and then Jakarta EE currently also kind of the working on this as well.
Yeah. So, has anybody else? Oh, all right. I see Ed and Ivar. It's Ed Burns.
Burns.
Yeah. So we have some work to do here, some investigative work. And if it really is 6 people, we'll have to figure out how we might want to do that. So even if MicroProfile is rehosted to Jakarta, you know, will MicroProfile hang around for, you know, existing specs for security fixes and all that kind of stuff, right? We've dug a little bit into that, right? But so this may still impact MicroProfile, depending on how long it takes for us to figure out about the move, um, and maybe impact us anyway. So I'll dig around this some more. Has anybody else run into this already?
We've fixed this in Helanon. Yes.
Any advice or any thoughts about?
I can send you the PR that that contains all the work we did. You know, you
Okay.
can look at that. Sure.
All right.
I'll put it in the Zoom chat. Once I get it, I
Yeah.
gotta go find it. Sorry.
Okay. Or you could just edit the meeting minutes directly and just add a link where she's typing. That'd be awesome.
Sure.
So if you can add a link here, that would be also
Yeah.
cute.
Now I have to open the meeting minutes too.
Great, thank you, Ed. Yeah, okay. We will just take a look kind of afterwards. So about some actions and etc. and then go from there. The next thing is also about this is something else. It's about security breach. So I would have hoped Cesar join. Oh, Cesar is not here. So basically, this is kind of the potential kind of the project, the MicroProfile site. So this is kind of the for building the MicroProfile.io. So it has kind of the potential security breach. So basically, there's a secret name and keyboard token used in this workflow. Token should be rotated for improved safety. So I understand Tommy Tribe, Cesar, maybe David, had this set up. So John, do you remember much for this?
No, I don't. And I just logged into the issue today. I just realized today that you had to be logged in to see it. So, technically, should we be showing any screen snapshots of the Git issue when it's and we're recording when it's still?
Oh yeah,
I'm,
that's true. It's
I'm
supposed not.
guessing. Yeah, I'm guessing we're still embargoed in some way. So we have to dig into this. Again, has anyone else already run into this and have thoughts about level of effort and what needs to be done?
So if not, I think I will follow up with Cesar and David. So it's John. Maybe it's better for you to cut the video, not to show the screen there.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, forgot basically it's kind of the especially for this. So anybody kind of can access this, they have to have a special permission, right, for this link.
I don't think it's special. I just think you have to be logged in with your Eclipse ID.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I mean that's all I had to do. So I'm guessing anybody here can log in with their just log into your Eclipse account and then you can see it.
Okay. So I follow up with Cesar. See all this.
Hey Martin, we were chatting about this a little bit. Can you try to log in right now? just to see if you can see the issue. Maybe it's just the project leads. I don't think so.
He tagged a few people. I don't think
Oh, that's true.
yeah, all of
That-
them are project leads. So
No, you're right. You're right. He did tag Martin. Anyone else here not tagged? Let's see.
I cannot get the issue, but
Okay, and
I'm
you're
not
logged in.
I'm not a committer, so
what about you, Nathan?
Okay.
Nathan, can you log in?
I did log in. I cannot. It says
Oh,
I did log in, but I can't get the issue.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm also asking Nathan to see
Yeah, I
whether
think I was tagged on that. I've been getting some emails,
oh
Okay.
you are tagged.
so I
Okay.
don't think that's going to help for me to check.
Yeah.
Okay
All
then.
right. So we got to figure this one out as well.
Okay.
So
The other thing is John didn't put in here. For the next steering committee call. So like this month we need to have another steering committee call. Do you want to kind of say next week we can have the steering committee call?
yeah. Thanks for reminding me today. It always seems to sneak up. So I'll have to send out an email saying, the next live hangout next week will be a steering committee call. We also have, sorry, I'm looking at my calendar. I think we got one more. We can also do it the third week.
Yeah, third, I won't be here. Oh, the June. Yeah, so the only thing I suggest next week is that have more attendees from a steering committee, from working group members, so that so we could have a straw poll about the move on the spot, rather than basically we had a long enough conversation now. Maybe it's better for people to vote on the spot. I
Yeah,
think,
I mean,
yeah.
that's not how we've done things typically.
But
Because
anyway,
not
it's
everybody will
local.
be able to join, but we'll see.
So what I'm suggesting basically, hopefully send a reminder and etc. We see how many people will join, so get basically more people. Well, anyway, try that. If it's not a quorum and etc., we can always vote on the spot and then follow up with the people who didn't make to the call and vote offline. So
And
that's
we
what,
also have June 24th.
yeah.
And
Also
I wouldn't mind giving ourselves a little bit more breathing room to continue our discussions.
yeah, that could work. Also, we have to have a long discussion. A few months, we couldn't just we are still like on the same spot. Anyway, if yeah, take a look to see whether you want to make it next week or the
Okay.
24th. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I tried to check the link to the security issue, and I get a 404 when I press that link.
All right. And you're a committer, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's just certain people.
Yeah. Looks like just certain people then. Yeah.
But the link is correct, so it works. The ticket number and the link is complete.
Yeah. Link was correct.
It's
Click
ticket
link.
number 268.
Yeah. Maybe it's just only limit to the certain people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ian, for checking. Okay, the next line business, MicroProfile 7.0 release. So the release date is 6th June, and also the issue the has been created. Oh, sorry. On the marketing, MicroProfile marketing for the release. I think maybe this one. John, you created, right? So launch the MicroProfile 7.1. So
Yeah.
so we can work on the list, kind of once the vote finish, and etc. So a few members have voted. Thank you very much. Also, I calculated today for 701 and Tommy Tribe, Fujitsu, Prampton, and Ajax have not voted. Only Yan is here. So the rest three, I think I will follow up with them and ask them to vote. And the Open API and telemetry, apart from this, also Emerson, Ajax have not voted on this, like the Open API 4.1 and telemetry 2.1. So also we need to, I will chase them. I will send a reminder again for them to vote. So the closing date is 6th June. So that's for the MicroProfile 7.1 release. Are there any comments and etc.? Okay, so that basically a few more days for the vote to happen. So the other things kind of continue the conversation. Before that, do we have any other things we want to discuss? For before we go into full details for this old topic, are there any other things people want to bring up? I think probably this will use up a lot of time. Okay, if not, I will give a quick update. As promised, from last week's MicroProfile Live Hangout. So I sent, based on what basically is Taban suggested, I sent basically 3 straw polls. One is kind of permanent, this one. The other one is this bullet point. So basically it's a move as they are now, and then change can happen after the move. And then the third one is namespace will be decided basically by the individual spec committees, committers. So, and I sent a straw poll, and a few people have voted. For the ones who have not voted, please vote. However, that's kind of basically triggered a lot conversations, discussions. So it's one discussion regarding basically the namespace. So basically in this one, I said basically we decided by the individual spec committers, and David kind of said actually the Jakarta EE spec committee normally kind of have a kind of basically final say, not final say. It will make a decision, the package name and etc. However, I checked the JESP and also checked the Eclipse Foundation, basically is let me just say Eclipse Foundation development process. So in here, like basically is in the one the section code and resources. It says basically each project owns each project. Once we move, would be like for example, micro tolerance as its own project. Owns and maintains a collection of resources. Resources may include source code and project website space, download, and etc. etc. A project not strictly required to make use of all the resources made available. For example, opt not to maintain a source code repository, such a project operator and this and download. So the kind of the so this is one paragraph. Namespaces are assigned to a project by the EMO. All project source code must be organized in the assigned namespaces. and projects can only release code under their own namespace. That is, they cannot infringe on another Eclipse project namespace. So from this paragraph, it looks like it's namespace assigned to a project by the EMO. So it's also I basically yeah, let me copy this one and then give you more story on that. So for namespace.
So namespace project in the Jakarta world is its own, each spec is its own project, right?
Yes, yeah. Namespace, oops.
So we would want to have a discussion with the EMO as well as Jakarta on this topic.
Yeah, so basically, okay, that's better. So I basically if I can get. I asked the Win to comment on this. So it's we also basically we also CC to EMO to see maybe Win is not around, and for the basically the for confirmation, it seems it's kind of the assigned basis. So put the hold the dashboard. The other thing is for this is Jakarta JESP. So in the JESP, so basically it's only kind of one paragraph talk about this. So all development that modifies content, so basically in the JavaX namespace must be moved to Jakarta namespace. All Jakarta namespace development must occur within the scope of a spec project operating under the purview of the Jakarta E Working Group Spec Committee, and must implement the processes defined in the most recent adopted version revision of the JSP. Use the Jakarta namespace limited to the API artifact. Basically, if you want to use the Jakarta dot, you have to be in the API just JavaDoc schema. Must not be used by any development, including application TCK. So that's why some TCK kind of namespace has been started with Jakarta or some other arbitrary namespace. So basically, it's the kind of the this is the only thing talked about in the basically the JESP. Let me copy it over here. JESP. So it only said basically is Java Egg must not be used and need to be changed to Jakarta. So it's kind of the looks like from my understanding, the namespace basically assigned to a project by EMO. We say ask EMO. I mean, what kind of namespace has to be used after the move. So with that, I think it's kind of the I think we need to agree on basically we are happy the one direction, we are happy MicroProfile basically move to Jakarta EU. And also to facilitate the move, I think it's a move as they are. And then after moved, and then work with the Jakarta community and to go through all the necessary changes rather than we discuss here and we agreed. And then after the move, and then basically it's a kind of the is the previous agreed not basically valid anymore. I think it's cause all the unnecessary kind of issues and etc. So this is the kind of what I'm thinking. The other thing is open for the other thing is kind of we will see if we couldn't basically make the first move within like next few weeks. I will say we should box for the June. We should make a decision. And the other suggestion is why don't we move a MicroProfile config first and then just try it out. So this is another thing we could basically people think about it, and we can discuss more kind of in the like next course. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Separate things regarding the namespace requirements. If we transfer all the MicroProfile working group's assets to the Jakarta working group, and MicroProfile was able to use the existing namespace, which is the old org Eclipse MicroProfile namespace, then it should be possible that Jakarta can continue to use it. So that's not a showstopper. I'm saying that because I expect that maybe some vendors might want to give support to existing versions of the MicroProfile specifications and want to do that without a breaking change in the namespace. So having service releases on existing MicroProfile specifications for security fixes, for example. That's necessary because EU legislation make or create some responsibility for vendors, including the Eclipse Foundation for maintenance and maintaining security issues. And we need to find out if that is necessary from some side of the vendors. And because they want still support older versions of the specifications, then we should be able to deliver that in the old namespace. Besides, what will be the final decision for the namespace for further maintenance within Jakarta?
Yeah, exactly. So basically what I propose basically move as they are, and then kind of whatever change, we have all the history, we have all the branch and etc. And then it's for the any if there's a kind of security vulnerability, we can easily release service release there. Even if like the master, the main has changed something different, but that would be a different release. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a requirement. In the straw poll, you're asking two things in the same: move them as they are, and let the spec
Oh, you
team
mean this one?
decide
Yeah.
the result. So that's where I disagree, because if we change the namespace, and I expect or hope that we will do that, then we should do that consistently, because otherwise we have a chance to create chaos, especially if something else is decided between the existing one and the Jakarta only one. If Jakarta.microprofile will be preferred by some spec teams, then we have 3 namespaces in place, and that would be really a worse outcome. But that's separate.
Yeah.
That's a separate question.
Let's have that one before you go further. So you are saying, what's your disagreement? So if I said the move as they are, under the pattern, and then is you are okay with this? You are not okay with what you are not okay with?
You followed Ed Brett's idea that the spec team decides the future namespace only. And I think there should be some guidance and maybe some exceptions in specific cases to deviate from the general namespace when there are good reasons. For example, one example might be there is no API artifact for MP telemetry, but and the TCK is using the right namespace of MicroProfile at the moment. That can change, but we will not introduce a new spec version that is not using the OTel namespace for the API. That might be a smaller exception because we didn't do that here. We shouldn't do that within Jakarta to not re-event an API artifact nobody else is using. Yeah, when changing to a Jakarta namespace in general, then there should be the exception for maintenance releases on existing versions of MicroProfile that still need support. That's another exception. We discussed in the past that some specs like REST client might be merged into Jakarta REST. I don't think so if the namespace will change in one step, in a coordinated step. That will be an issue in that case because the existing namespace that is used in Jakarta REST deviates in its pattern for historical reasons too, and they don't wanted to change it in the past, as I asked them. But when it follows the Jakarta .star pattern, then it will not interfere the existing specification, so it could be done safely in one step. There was another example, MicroProfile JOT. That might be merged into security. Yeah, then we need to find out when that might be happened and if it makes sense to do it with the coordinated namespace change, or if we wait until that is merged into security when that is soon. And another exception we discussed was that there are specifications that are deprecated, like MP tracing, for example. We don't want to create a Jakarta version of that specification because nobody wants to maintain it. So that should be kept as it is.
But I think if the working group basically shut down, I think that even though it's kind of deprecated, or it still need to move. It's still need to move, and if there's other service release needed, we still need to move to.
Yeah, we need to move it so somebody is responsible for the spec and maybe some maintenance if required, but nobody wants to add features to that specification which justifies that it should become a new release, a new major release with a Jakarta namespace in that example. That's something I think. What we need is some kind of roadmap that contains all the steps that need to be taken, and maybe the transfer is done as a whole or in steps. When doing a test balloon, it's a good idea to use the config spec for that. But that depends on the Jakarta side too. So. But what we can do is giving Jakarta a suggestion where we expect which work need to be done and where changes make sense and where they don't. And that's our responsibility to make that transition as smooth as possible, I think. By the way, we forgot that I started a straw poll with the wording from my suggestion from last week. Today, to ask for the transfer of the assets only first, to do the first step to approach to the Jakarta Steering Committee before we think about terminating the working group at all, or renaming things that might be renamed further.
I don't think we kind of we decided to rename things so that's why
you asked in a straw poll for transferring the repos to a new name, and we shouldn't do that. That should be part of the transfer to Jakarta, because that's a breaking change too. Even if GitHub supports some issues that are created with the renaming of a GitHub repository. I commented that in my votes, by the way.
So this is a part of the move. It's not like we have to start from somewhere, right? So this is kind of the if we start, it's kind of where it's end up with. So basically, we say, okay, if we move as they are and end up in this kind of the GitHub location. So that's,
but that's a step where Jakarta decides how that should be named and where that should be located. If the assets transferred to Jakarta and got accepted there, then they can take the repositories as they are, and then the change of the repository can be coordinated with the namespace of the future development of the spec. This is transferring it to a specific name, does not make sense at this point for me. That I wanted to point out.
Right, that's fine. It's that's your view on this. I think it's when we transfer, we have some input where it will end up with. So this again is kind of the first, like this is like selling the house. At what price do we want to sell the house? Obviously, we can order the price. We can give a very high price. But then with this, as long as we are happy with this price internally, and again we talk with Jakarta EE, said, are you okay if we transfer under this repo? So if Jakarta EE is a no, and then obviously we have to negotiate again. So it's a kind of, it won't be like a MicroProfile saying, okay, go to Jakarta and Jakarta work out what to do with them. I think this is kind of backwards and forwards discussion to happen. So all I want to find out is, are we okay if this end up in this pattern? If people have a disagreement, and when we agree among ourselves, maybe you have a consensus, what kind of name do we want to end up with? And then pick that and then just put some kind of the basically recommendations to Jakarta EE, and Jakarta EE can decide, and also make some recommendations, and then we eventually reach a consensus, and then we will do the move and etc. I think
what I wanted to point out, the namespace is the most important question. The future namespace to be used within Jakarta, that will be decided within Jakarta. And the GitHub repo name and the Maven coordinates should be in sync with that namespace. And therefore, that step does not make sense now for me. That I wanted to point out, because it has some interference with the namespace that will be used.
Yeah, so I basically already waiting for Eclipse Foundation come back to see what kind of acceptable namespaces are, and also is in next week the Jakarta EE's spec committee also put that for discussion. I already started the conversation there to see what's the available namespace for if the move to happen, and then take it from there. And but at the end of the day, a MicroProfile need to have a some kind of the view on what kind of namespace we want to end up with. And first, I agree, and I'm working hard trying to get acceptable namespace. What's a rule, and then we can like work out the acceptable namespace, and we can kind of put forward for the next move.
Ed has some comment on that.
Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask a question. Why don't we ask the EMO if they would be willing to transfer orgeclipse.microprofile to Jakarta if we, under this plan? Is that something they could do? I mean, that seems like that maybe that handles the issue that you found in the that you listed above.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's I think it's kind of, so it's one thing I'm going to basically I only asked Wayne to comment. I think is I will follow up and then send an email to EMO regarding the rules of transferring MicroProfile access to Jakarta. Is that your question?
Yeah, right. I mean, if there's a concern about whether Jakarta EE could continue, from what I've heard, it seems like there's every reason to believe there could be reasons to publish into those artifacts. We don't want to keep a shell of the MicroProfile working group around just for maintenance if we can avoid it. I don't think we do, and and so we want to make sure that if we really go down this dissolution path, right, that everything is in place for Jakarta EE to do what they need to do without causing any kind of an infraction.
Okay, so send an email regarding the rules of transferring MP asset to Jakarta EE. Are there any concerns of the?
I would specifically ask about that namespace issue you asked,
Okay.
you found.
Keep the existing namespace.
Yeah.
Okay. Good point. I will basically follow up with my email, and then it's kind of we'll send a
And I just, since I have the floor, I just wanted to make sort of a statement. I don't think we are proposing that MicroProfile would take any of these actions, right? It's my opinion, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Seems like we should be focused on, we want to transfer this technology to Jakarta EE, and then it's kind of up to the specification groups after they assemble to decide what to do with it. At least that's kind of my sort of take on things, right? We don't intend to make any of the, let's say Jakarta EE were to decide it wanted to move the namespace. And again, I'm just posing this as a hypothetical, but let's say they wanted to do that. That's not something we would do prior to publish, to contribute, to essentially to migrating these repositories over to Jakarta EE. That would, if that were to happen, it would be the community efforts in Jakarta EE, not community efforts to MicroProfile. Is that right? Is that?
Yeah, yeah, I got exactly same idea as you. So that's why I said, okay, we just donate, we move as they are. And then it's Jakarta EE kind of decide what to do with them. And without any release, whatever changes doesn't make any make it to anywhere. And also the as I mentioned earlier, if we just go ahead to make changes and then It's just for no apparent reason. Eventually, if the move did not succeed, and then we are in the limbo, we make a change to Jakarta, and then it's kind of Jakarta, that move eventually didn't happen. We will be in a really, really kind of awkward spot. So that's why I don't think we need to do anything in this side. We should directly just, yeah, it's a move as they are, and then things will happen afterwards.
So as it, my history, right? We expended a lot of effort with Oracle when we contributed Jakarta, Java to Jakarta, because we had to strip out a bunch of legacy branches and legacy material. They only wanted the essentially the leaf of our repositories, right? And I don't think we're proposing to do that, anything like that here. I think we're just proposing to move the repositories as they are to a different working group, and then the different working group continues evolution.
Yes, that's
At
my
least
understanding.
that's what I think our goal here is. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. And again, I don't want to. I don't think we should be signing up MicroProfile to do a bunch of we don't want to have to just contribute the leaf, the leaf branch of the leaf nodes of MicroProfile. We want it to go lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of, this is exactly, and we should not basically move out before the house has been sold. We basically business as usual. Before this is like sell the house before the contract was signed, and then you basically you got an order to move. I don't think we should do anything. Business as usual in MicroProfile. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I agree to some extent. What you said, Ed. We were asking the Jakarta E working group to take over the assets of the MicroProfile working group. When they accept it, and they have to do it separately from us within their, when they accept that donation, then they get the rights to handle these existing repositories. So we should move them up front and renaming them whatever. At the end, we give the rights to handle these existing repositories, and then within the Jakarta side, they decide how to proceed with these donations. What we can do besides that is giving some guidance, help, and suggestions, because we have some experience with that stuff. And maybe if that is welcome, then we can create a roadmap and can help on that, especially because most of us are also active within Jakarta. So then it would make sense to help on both sides to have a smooth transition and a consensus as most possible for that transition, to not lose anybody on the way. But we can only give from the MicroProfile side suggestions about the future of within Jakarta E, not put some requirements on it if they accept to take over.
Yeah, we can't really make a decision for them. This is all kind of the suggestions. So anyway, I think is kind of the next basically follow up I will do is I send an email to email regarding the rules about transfer asset to Jakarta EE. So are there any concern keeping the existing namespace? And then also I have this other discussion on the Jakarta EE spec committee as well, to come up with basically some namespace discussion again, and figure out what's kind of acceptable namespace and etc. I think is kind of we'll continue the discussion, and I think is we should have a goal, kind of get it settled this month. Okay, John.
So a couple of things. First, I don't want this to be thought of as, well, we're just going to move it over and then figure it out, right? I mean, the whole idea behind the straw polls and having these discussions is to have a kind of pre-agreements about what we want to happen between the two working groups, right? So because if we just figure it out after the fact, what I think is going to happen is Jakarta's just going to make decisions based on what they wanted, right? Not necessarily MicroProfile, like the spec committee, right? Not individuals. I'm not even sure who everyone is on the spec committee, so it's not an attack at individuals. So I think that's one thing. The second thing is, while we don't want to have this discussion go on forever, I understand that. I don't necessarily want to have a premature ballot either, because I do think we want to have an understanding ahead of time as much as possible about what's going to happen if MicroProfile is over there, right? Especially the namespace, which I think we all understand is a big issue for customers because it's going to break code. But there are other things as well, like spec naming and stuff, which aren't as important for customers. But I do want to have as much of this as possible kind of pre-understood between the two working groups.
Yeah, but my thing is, my kind of recommendation is, I think what I mentioned, we should settle this kind of this month is kind of whether we want to move or not. So is that this approach is welcomed or kind of or not? And then for the move, I think it will take some time. And then like over one thing we need to figure out overall, do we agree this is direction? If we do not agree this is the kind of overall direction, I think we are running in circles. If majority people think, no, I don't really want to move, why we spend time to discuss the fine details? So this is something we need to figure out kind of the overall direction first before we kind of sit down and talk about details. Now I feel I'm confused. I feel, are we clear with the overall direction? So that's why I think is kind of the overall direction need to be nailed down. So from each working group members, do you +1 on the move? If it's kind of most people said no, why we discuss the namespace thing? I think that's a waste of time.
So this is not a binding vote to actually do the
No.
move. This is another straw poll, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We
Okay.
can't do binding vote until the after the move. We can't really terminate our working group.
Okay.
Now we'll
No,
take a
I
minute.
misunderstood that aspect of it.
No, we're not doing any binding vote after the things all be moved.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand. So basically it's yeah, I think it's also I clearly said my concern is overall, do you like agree with the move? If not, I think that's not to discuss this anymore. I think I feel like we already spent a few months to discuss like this. And then if like overall we still think this is the right approach, and then we work on the steps.
Isn't this basically Jan's vote already? Right? Are there any red lines? If there's no red lines, I mean, is that the same thing, or am I missing something?
That's what I try to figure out. If you have any red lines, then vote with the -1, like keep the namespace or whatever it might be. And if your first priority is to move and independently, or its second priority, what will be the namespace or whatever, then vote with a +1. So we have or we find out if we have consensus on the merge of the working group content into Jakarta EE working group or not. And then we need to have further discussions based on these comments and vetoes against. That was the idea.
Yeah, I have not processed the Jens like a straw poll as yet. I think I encourage all of you, please kind of vote on this 4 straw polls or comment on the straw polls. And then eventually, I think it's next week, we will kind of like also lift out some comments and concerns and share. And then let's kind of come together and at least work out whether the overall direction is acceptable. If no, I think we should stop this conversation. Okay, so that's kind of the end of this yeah, on the top of the hour. Are there any last minutes comment? Okay, if not, please vote on release. I think the release is kind of you only have a few days to vote. Please do vote, and then we can move the put the artifacts before the kind of the other like this issue become a real issue for us. Okay, thank you all, and talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.
Right, thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. Thank you.